Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ring Diaries here at Church of Uganda Family TV with me, Fiona Mboa, where we talk about everything and anything to do with marriage. If there's anything that you want to have discussed about marriage, please reach out to us and we'll be able to talk about it here at Ring Diaries. Today, I keep telling us I don't bring experts. There's no expert in marriage. We just try to make sure we build on other people's experiences to make our marriages much, much better. And this evening, we're going to talk about a topic that has been puzzling me, and a topic that even I think, culturally speaking, we've failed to pick it up. That's why I brought this one is an expert. For today, we brought an expert who is going to to help us talk about adoption and marriage. And with me today is Babra Mutagubya. You're very welcome.
Thank you, Fiona.
Barbara has been married coming to 15 years in
Yes.
October, and that's a journey.
It is a journey.
How
and
how has 15 years been?
It's been an exciting journey. But just like any journey, there are ups and downs. But the most important thing I want to say is that it's been an exciting and sweet and lovely journey.
Oh, that is
Yes.
beautiful. So, Barbara, we're going to talk about adoption and marriage.
Yeah.
And I think for the sake of our viewers and why they need to listen to you, you'll just briefly tell us what you do so that people understand where you're coming from when you're talking about such a topic.
Okay, thank you very much. And dear viewers, good evening. My name is Babra Mutagubya, and I serve with Sanyu Babies Home. Sanyu Babies Home is the oldest babies home in Uganda. We are 95 years old.
Really?
Since 1929, Sanyu Babies Home has been in existence, and it was established by missionary sister Winfred Walker, who was working in Mengo Hospital. And Mengo Hospital is just over the fence of Sanyu Babies Home. Okay. She was a midwife working under the Church Missionary Society. And as she was helping ladies to deliver in the labor ward, some mothers would come in, deliver, and leave their babies, abandon their babies, and disappear. While some people would walk into the hospital compound and leave their babies unattended to and disappear. So, being so passionate, she started keeping them in her home and giving them much needed care and protection until the number became huge, that it was evident she couldn't handle them by herself. That is how Sanyu Babies Home was established. And since then, since 1929, Sanyu Babies Home is dedicated to providing Christ-like love to babies and children deprived of parental love and reintegrating them into community. At Sanyu, we believe that children belong in families because we don't want to see children living in institutions forever.
Okay.
It is God's plan to see every child living in a family. We know that God sets the lonely in families, and this fits in so well with our topic for today, the topic about adoption. But maybe before we go into that, people may need to understand how these children now come in, because not all of them come from Mengo Hospital. Okay. A number of the babies we have in our care, we take care of babies from birth up to 4 years old. And many of the babies come in after being rescued from places like garbage heaps. A mother delivers a 1-day-old baby, places the baby in a plastic bag, and dumps it on a garbage heap. Some mothers place babies in plastic bags and dump them in trenches of water on a rainy day so that the running water will wash them away. Some babies are left in bushes and actually rescued by dogs. You can imagine a human being giving birth and leaving a baby in a bush, but God uses an animal to rescue the baby. And in the process, because the dogs use their teeth, the babies get injured. Some babies are left in public places like tax parks. Some are left on the streets, while others are first physically abused. They are tortured, and then maybe the person torturing them has an intention of seeing this baby die, but when the baby fails to die, they abandon them. Some of them are severely malnourished, they are starved. There is a little girl we received at approximately 9 months old. She only weighed 3.7 kilograms. Then other children come in, like I was telling you, that they are physically abused. Currently, we have a little girl of 3 years, approximately 3 years old, but she came in after going through a lot of torture. We received her when she had scars all over her body. She was malnourished, but also her right hand was fractured and the left leg was fractured. And as if that wasn't enough, her left-hand side was paralyzed, meaning that she must have suffered some kind of stroke. So while we were taking care of her, taking care of the fractured hand and fractured leg, as she became better, we started doing physiotherapy so that the left-hand side can also start working. And along the way, she started getting very strong seizures, and she would fall, hit her head. So we took her to Mengo Hospital to do a brain CT scan, and that is when the doctor realized there is something wrong with the brain, and the problem had happened from the torture that she had suffered. And then we went further to Nsambia Hospital to do an MRI, where it was discovered that actually this girl, somebody tried to kill her, to strangle her, and the artery carrying oxygen to the right-hand side of the brain had been cut off. And that explains the stroke she suffered on the left-hand side. And it meant that we needed to take her for a brain surgery. And many of other children come in such a state after being traumatized, going through so much. But the good news is that when they come into Sanyu Baby's home, it becomes their home, which we call a home of joy. We try as much as we can to bring back joy into their lives, but obviously through people like you out there.
So, Babra, okay, those stories really are sad that actually in our society that is still happening. But exactly, what is adoption?
Adoption, the Children's Act amended in 2016 clearly explains what adoption is, and it is a legal act of granting parental rights to somebody else other than the biological parents. For example, if you were to adopt a 2-year-old boy, the courts of law, if you're Ugandan, you go to the Chief Magistrate's Court.
Okay.
And for the internationals, they go to the High Court Family Division in Machinde, where the judge will grant an adoption order to you, and the adoption order confers to you 100% parental rights over this child, just like your biological child. In simple terms,
I was going to say, please simplify that.
In simple terms, when you get the adoption order, there is no difference between your biological child and the adopted child.
So in essence, what you're saying is, I actually become the legal parent of this child.
You become the legal parent of that child, and the child is 100% yours. In fact, when you have an adopted child, you can even make them your heir. Nobody can challenge your decision. Yes.
Is that even acceptable?
Very accepted and very, very possible and legally recognized. If you were to write your will and you have 3 children and 1 adopted, those are 4 children, you don't separate them that I have 3 children. But there is also another adopted child. No, you have 4 children, and they all have equal rights even to inheritance.
So, Babra, I don't know, in your line of work, how is adoption perceived? Before I give you my perception, how is adoption perceived in your line of work?
Well, I want to say I have been serving with Sanyu Baby's Home for 16 years now. And for the past 16 years, I have seen the trend change.
Okay. I hope for the better.
For the better.
Yeah.
For the better. Yes, for the better. Many years ago, many Ugandans had a very negative attitude towards adoption. And many looked at it as something that is an abomination,
How do you bring another child,
something that is not possible. May be possible to a few very rich people, or a few whites, or a few families that are struggling to get children biologically in their families. But now, with the awareness that is being created through media like Family TV and other media houses, many Ugandans have embraced adoption. Actually, as I speak right now, at Sanyu Baby's Home, we keep a waiting list of families wanting to adopt. Yes,
that is
we have a waiting list. And now we want to create more awareness so that all Ugandans can embrace adoption, can view adoption as something positive, something godly, because by the way, we are all adopted children of God. And in the Bible, we also see Moses being abandoned and then rescued and adopted. And we want to celebrate adoption. And that is why we have worked with a group of adoptive parents. We have Ugandan adoptive parents, and we have a group of passionate Ugandan adoptive parents that have come together, and we are organizing a mega conference. It is about bringing hope to generations through adoption. We want to demystify adoption. We want to celebrate adoption. We want to share testimonies. We want people to know the legalities around adoption so that many children living in institutions can go into families. Today, statistics mention that there are over 50,000 children living in 800 children's homes in Uganda. That is a very huge number.
Homes.
800 children's homes and 50,000 children. Think about how the world would be if all the 50,000 children were living in families, no matter whether you're not the biological mother, but somebody saying, this is my mother. I know I was adopted, but this is where I belong. This is family, as opposed to having them growing up in institutions. Because you know what happens in institutions? The children will be given good accommodation, good feeding, education, but the law requires that once a child gets to 18 years, they are not children anymore, they are adults.
So what
they
happens?
are supposed to go into independent living. Now think about your 18-year-old daughter sending her out in independent living. It is very difficult. That is why many of the children that have grown up in institutions are now struggling. They usually come back. Some of them came from Sanyu and were transferred to other institutions caring for older children because by then they weren't absorbed in families. And now many of them are out there into independent living, but they are struggling. Life is very, very difficult for them. Some of them have gotten partners. They are getting married, but they're like, but I don't have a family. I don't have grandparents. I don't have sengas. I don't have judges. I don't have kojas. That is how difficult it is. But also, you know, growing up knowing it is just me.
I'm on my own.
I'm on my own. It is very difficult.
So Babra, given that background and now that fact that people actually trying to embrace adoption, at least better than they were at the beginning, who qualifies to adopt? Can anyone just adopt? Or because initially, as you said, we used to think adoption was for either the very rich or those who are without children, but who qualifies to actually adopt a child?
Well, like I told you that the Children's Act amended in 2016 clearly explains matters of adoption, and anybody above the age of 25 years can adopt. However, there are other things we look at for somebody to fully qualify. But before one adopts, there is a requirement for fostering. The law requires
now, what's the
that
difference between fostering and adopting?
Okay, the law requires that before you become an adoptive parent, you are supposed to foster the child for a period of 12 months.
So you stay with the child.
The probation officer, who is mandated to, according to the law.
But people are talking about things that are in the movies. Are those things in Uganda?
Okay, now these things are in Uganda. Every district in Uganda has a social welfare and probation officer.
Wow.
And in Kampala, every division has a social welfare and probation officer. And the Children's Act mandates the probation officer to place abandoned children in children's homes, like Sanyu Baby's home.
Okay.
But also, it is the role of the probation officer to get these children out of the children's homes into people's families, like Fiona's family, for fostering.
Okay.
So, for you to become an adoptive parent,
You must
you must first foster, working with your area probation officer. The probation officer doesn't have children in her office, but she has the mandate to get the children from Sanyu and other children's homes into your family for fostering.
Okay.
And before that happens, there is an assessment that is done. Obviously, if you came to Sanyu Baby's home, before we send you to your area probation officer, we want to be sure that who you are. We want to be comfortable working with you. So before we send you to the probation officer, we make an assessment. We make a home study visit, a background check, asking for certificate of good conduct or criminal clearance certificate from police, letters of recommendation from your place of worship, from your LC1 chairperson, from the Secretary for Children's Affairs on the LC, from your workplace, relatives, family members, because what we require is that social support. Because remember, I told you that anybody from 25 can adopt. So just imagine a 25-year-old lady coming to adopt, and she's not yet married, probably living alone. So we want to ensure that there is that social support. So after we've gone through all that, and we are very happy and comfortable working with you, we will write a letter introducing you to your area probation officer, because most of you don't even know that there is a probation officer and even where they sit. So the probation officer will also do the assessment as required in the law, in the Children's Act, and also the regulations for children's homes. So once the probation officer has okayed you, then the probation officer will work with a child care institution to identify a child that will eventually become part of your family. And when the probation officer legally, officially places that child with you, then you are referred to as a foster parent.
Okay.
And fostering takes place for 12 months. During the 12 months, you are under the close monitoring and supervision of your area probation officer.
But I have the child in my home.
The child is in your home. In simple terms, we would say you're on kind of probation period. So the child is in your home. Sanyu Baby's home also has interest in this child, so we keep coming, checking on you. Is the child fitting into the family? How are you bonding with the child? And how is everything generally? Are family members accepting the child? Because that is also another issue.
That's a big issue.
You know, having a mother and father ready to adopt the child, but the rest of the family members are not ready to accept this child. So we look into all those nitty-gritties. And by the end of 1 year, the social worker has made multiple visits into your home and she has reports. Then she will write a detailed report that will be sent to the Chief Magistrate's Court accompanying your adoption application. And then the Chief Magistrate will grant you an adoption order, which confers to you 100% parental rights over this child, just like your biological child. And at that point, you can even name this child Mboa. If all your children are, yes. Okay. So the child is yours.
But I don't know, where do you think our hesitation comes in, especially around adoption?
We don't have any organization and an individual that has done detailed study research into this, but from what I hear when I interact with people, it's mainly culture. Today, Fiona, if you went and told your mother and father you want to adopt a child, they may be happy, they may not be happy.
They may not be happy.
You see, so the culture and the perception people have around adoption. Many people in the past used to say, adopted children are difficult to raise. Adopted children may not fit in the family, adopted children may become problematic children. But now that is what we want to demystify.
Because
and we want to tell Ugandans that, by the way, children are a gift from the Lord. Whether biological right from your tummy or a heart child, we call adopted children heart children. Those are children right from our hearts. The child can become a wonderful child. just like you've all seen children. You know, we've seen many families having maybe 4 children, 5 children, but there is this specific one they are struggling with. Maybe this was number 1, child number 1, or number 2, or number 3, but the child seems to have lots of challenges.
And yet she's your biological
And this
child.
is your biological child. This is a child you nurtured. This is a child you loved from the day you got to know that you've conceived. This is a child you prayed for. This is a child, while you were pregnant, you attended all the antenatal visits that you were supposed to attend.
But the
now,
child is still difficult.
yes, the child is still difficult. But now let us also think about the adopted children. The fact that these were neglected children, once unwanted, unloved, because we are looking at a 14-year-old girl that has been impregnated by a father. That is incest already. And then the entire family disowns the 14-year-old girl with her baby, saying that is an abomination. Mu Luganda bagamba agomma wemukirano. So where is the 14-year-old girl going to go with the unborn baby? Or we are looking at a baby that was conceived because the mother is a commercial sex worker, and she probably doesn't know the father, and even during the time she was pregnant, she was on drugs. She didn't go for antenatal. She didn't like this baby. Maybe at some point she tried to abort the baby and things didn't work out. And now she gets to the point of giving birth. She goes, squats on a pit latrine, pushes her baby, and what welcomes the baby? The feces and the maggots. So the children that we take care of at Sanyu have already gone through a lot. But we want to tell people that together we can make a difference in the lives of these children. They have already gone through a very difficult start of their life. Some of them have been starved. Some of them, from the time of birth, they didn't feed them. They hid them somewhere. Maybe as they were growing up, they were tied on the bed so that they don't crawl around, because the mother doesn't have time for the child. The mother has to go out in the night and work. But at the end of the day, they are gifts from the Lord.
God.
And God wants to use you and me to nurture these gifts and bring hope in their lives. So either you're going to nurture them within your family through adopting, or if you're not yet able, or you're not ready, maybe God wants to use you to extend a helping hand to them as they are living in childcare institutions. Because much as I have told you that we have a long waiting list of families wanting to adopt, it doesn't mean that we don't have children currently at Sanyu Baby's home. No, currently we have 51 children. Our capacity is 50. We've slightly gone beyond capacity. And not all the children in the children's homes will be absorbed in adoption, in families for adoption. Some of them have just come, and for us to give you a child for fostering and then adoption, we want to ensure that we have searched, we have done social inquiries, we've searched for the known relatives of these children, because our aim, number one, is to reunite the children with their living family members. And how are we supposed to find them? How are we supposed to know them as Sanyu Baby's home if a child has been rescued from the Old Tax Park or from Kasubi Market? We send a team of social workers out to go and do they trace.
Trace where this
and sometimes we find the known relatives.
Oh, yes. And are they willing to take these children?
It is a process. We finding the known relatives, but also confirming that they are indeed the known relatives. So sometimes we even do DNA tests. But also, we have to prepare the family that we have found. We might find a very old grandmother that is unable to take care of this premature baby. But we want to work with the grandmother to lead us to other family members
who can take this
and
child.
Identify the person that is able and willing to take care of this child.
Well, we're going to take a break, and then when we come back, we're going to continue this conversation about adoption. And for our viewers out there who have never thought about adoption, or who have thought it is chive, I am hoping that by end of this show, we're able to understand that this is a way of sharing love with the children, just as Babra has been saying. So don't go away. I'm Fiona Mbowa here at Church of Uganda Family TV with Ring Diaries.